The central story of Houston is that all the growth of this city, basically during the oil boom years of the 60s and 70s until 1982, was Anglos pouring into Houston because this is where the jobs were. Houston became the fourth largest city in 1980, overwhelmingly still a biracial southern city dominated by white men. After the oil bust in 1982, the Anglo population stopped growing and then declined. And all the rapid growth of this region in the last 30 years has been non-Anglo growth, and this biracial southern city dominated by white men has become the single most ethnically diverse large metropolitan area in the country. It's very rare to do studies of the Asians, a random sample of all Asians, because it's hard to reach a random sample. We do it by random telephone numbers reaching random households. You start with over 60,000 phone numbers. And it's a tremendous challenge to be able to do that. And we did 28% of the interviews in Vietnamese, Cantonese, Mandarin, and Korean. And so in those we were able to do it in each of those 3 years, spanning 16 years of research, to get a very powerful picture, I think, of this remarkable part of the Houston community. You ask a typical Anglo, how come Asians are doing so well in America? You get a version of what's called the model minority myth. Well, the Asians came here with nothing, with no money, no education, no command of English, and by virtue of hard work, strong family values, and high intelligence, Asians have succeeded. Proof that America is a land of opportunity for anybody with the right kinds of values, and by implication or explicitly, if you blacks and Hispanics are making it, you got no one to blame but yourselves. Look at the Asians. And when you look at the Asians, you discover that they are coming from educational and income backgrounds that are far superior to the average background of the average US-born Anglo-Houstonian. Secondly, the model minority myth puts 27 different nationalities, major differences in culture, major differences in socioeconomic status, in reasons for coming to this country. You've got professionals coming as engineers and doctors. You've got Filipino nurses coming here under the occupational provisions of the 1965 Immigration Reform Act. And you've got Vietnamese coming as refugees. Many Asians having real difficulty coming from low socioeconomic backgrounds with tremendous challenges, unlikely to receive help in a language they can understand from a community that thinks all the Asians are doing great. So one reason for systematic surveys of this sort is to clarify the tremendous variety of these incredible communities, 27 different nationalities, all coming to this one city.
School in China is much harder to get into, and it's much more competitive. Going to like a really good school is actually quite crucial towards your career. And luckily, I believe that both my parents went to fairly good schools, and that was part of the reason why they could come to the United States, was that they were accomplished enough to develop some kind of a career here. Another part of that was that they really wanted me to get a good education without so much of the competitiveness as well.
There were virtually no Asians in Houston. In 1970, 2% of the population was Asian. And then as the Anglo population stopped growing, the rapid growth of the Asian and Latino immigrant communities. And in our first survey in 1995, 90% of all the Asian adults were first-generation immigrants. Only 10% were US born. In 2002, it was 15%. And in 2011, 31% of all the Asian adults are now US-born, 100% American kids coming of age in this new world of ours. So that we're watching the rise of the second generation of these remarkable communities. Children often of upper middle class professionals, children of two worlds, and a world of instantaneous communications, inexpensive travel. You become American, but you don't stop being Indian. You don't stop being Vietnamese and maintaining those connections.
We're not surrounded by the same culture. I mean, even no matter where you go, even if you're kind of in a very like Asian-dominated community, like there's still going to be so many different types of people. So I think we all kind of take everything in, and it's definitely more progressive, I think.
You can see the role that the second-generation Asians are going to be playing in helping this city build a truly successful, inclusive, equitable, multi-ethnic society.